So, for those of you unaware, Alabama is playing Memphis in a scrimmage tomorrow evening. That is going to be streamed on ESPN Plus / SEC Network Plus. That's going to be happening in Huntsville, Alabama. So, I just was going to talk about obviously where you need to see it, but then B, kind of what I'm looking and what I'm interested in potentially seeing for this game. So, the same players that were out for the first scrimmage are going to be out for this one. So, there's going to be no Latrell Wrightsell, no Grant Nelson, no Aiden Sherrill. And then obviously Chris Youngblood is out as well. So it's going to be a limited roster, similar roster to what we saw in that very first scrimmage. And I really just wanted to talk about, like I said, what I'm interested in looking for and what I kind of think would be a successful scrimmage. Because at the end of the day, what I want everyone to be aware of is win or lose, this can be a successful scrimmage, right? At the end of the day, these scrimmages do not count towards your win-loss record. They give you an ability to, against live competition, play a real game and work on your rotations, work on what lineups may or may not work on defensive strategies that, again, may or may not work. It's all about working on things against live competition in a moment that does not actually affect the end of the season rankings, right? Does not affect your record, does not affect your rankings, right? So even if Alabama ends up losing this game, it's okay, right? I would love to see them not lose it, but if they do lose it, it's completely fine. Right? So I'm very curious to see NATO try out some rosters or some lineups that maybe we would not expect, whether it be, Jaron Stevenson at the 3. It may not be something we see super often because I think that lineup with him at the 3 would work best with Grant Nelson at the 4 and Cliff at the 5. And with Grant Nelson being out, maybe you don't see Jaron at the 3 in this game. But right, like try some people out in some positions that maybe is not their what some people would consider their primary position. See what it looks like with LeBaron Philon running point a lot more. See, what it looks like when, maybe you see a Diabate in a little bit more aggressive role just to see kind of what role he could carve out for himself in this game, right? At the end of the day, this is all about trying things and seeing what sticks, right? At the end of the day, you kind of know what you have out of Mark Sears. So you don't have to play him 30 minutes just to win the game, right? You know what you have out of Mark Sears. You don't have, like I said, you don't have to play him all that time just to see what he's capable of. Versus some of these newer comers, right? If you're in a specific instance where you're maybe trying to decide whether you're going to redshirt a player or not. For those of you unaware, there has been some talk that 1 to 2 guys may be redshirting this season. Nate mentioned it on a podcast last week, and there's been a lot of rumors floating around as to who that might be. The preliminary thoughts are maybe Nas Cunningham and Houston Millette is another one that we have heard as well. Again, not sure if they will or not, but again, Nate has floated the idea that 1 to 2 players may be redshirting, and those are the names that seem to make the most sense, right? So maybe you get those guys some extra time just to see, like, can they contribute, or does a redshirt make a little bit more sense due to the position that they're playing and how competitive that position already is, right? At the end of the day, this scrimmage is really just to see what you have as a team and play against your fans in a different part of the state, right? They did this in Huntsville so that they can get in front of the fans in North Alabama. It's going to be close to Mark Sears' family. It's going to be close to a lot of fans up in North Alabama. So it's in front of fans. They wanted to play Memphis as well, right? So it's against another large team, against a higher skill level of competition. And then at the end of the day, it's to try out things, right? So I'm just very curious to see that. I would like to see maybe less turnovers. We did have a slight turnover issue with Darion Reed and Mark Sears in the first game, but Alabama really only committed 14 turnovers. And at the pace in which we play, 14 is not super crazy. You just wouldn't love to see 4 turnovers out of Mark and Darion. I don't think that that's something we should expect moving forward. But again, it's something that happened in the first one and something I'd be curious to see what happens in this next one. But all of these things to say, at the end of the day, this is so that they can play against live competition, so that they can compete, and so that it doesn't affect their record, right? So I'm hoping Nate Oates really starts throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks. Put some lineups out there that we're very curious where the scoring is going to come from. Put some lineups out there that I'm curious where the defense is going to come from, right? I'm okay with that in this moment because at the end of the day, we're not competing for the SEC title right this very game, right? You don't want to try that in late February, right? You can absolutely try that in early November, right? Or late October, early November. So that's kind of my thoughts on this scrimmage. I really would love to see what happens. I'm not expecting Alabama to hit 100 points, or 98 points like we did last time. If we are able to hit it, that would be absolutely incredible. And it really would tell you kind of what sky's the limit is for this team. But that's kind of my thoughts for this game. I just really want to see what happens when we just throw some lineups out there that are maybe not the traditional ones and maybe some different ideas of how either we're playing defense or offense that obviously they've been working on, but we have not played against live competition, and see how it works or how it doesn't, just so that you can prepare yourself for the season that is to come, right? Because at the end of the day, that's all these scrimmages are good for. They're good to help you play against competition, see what works, see what doesn't work, and then be able to use that to make decisions as you move forward into the real season.